Hello, everyone. If you've made it this far to find this video, that means that you've read my reply to your introductory email that you were supposed to have completed by the end of June. So you've gotten my response to your introduction where you've told me a little bit about yourself, and now you're ready to continue on the trajectory of your summer assignment. So I wanted to kind of walk you through this material with the end goal, of course, of completing those two items that I'm asking for you by the end of August. So let's just review that by the end of summer. What are we looking at here? Of course, you're going to be reading Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. And as you read, you're going to be annotating that text with your sticky notes. So I want to see a little bit of evidence that that has been happening. I'll take a look at your annotated text when we meet in person. And just as a good faith indication that you've been faithfully annotating, I would like you to include 5 photos that you just take with your phone of the book and the notes that are present on the book. So actual visual proof that you have been physically interacting with the text. Now, some of you might say, oh, my handwriting's terrible. Maybe you won't be able to read it. I'd prefer to type my notes. I'm fine with that if you are typing your notes, but I do need you to have some kind of physical indication as well. So some kind of handwritten thing on a sticky note that if you want to follow up and do, some typed records for your own or my benefit down the line for more clarity, that's fine. But ultimately, nobody gets out of the sticky notes, okay? So make sure that there's a picture of that. And I want to make sure that this is your own thinking as well. So please, please refrain from the temptation of looking stuff up on SparkNotes and just kind of like using those insights as your own, because that's really not going to help you exercise your brain in the way you're going to need to write something original about this text. So, as tempted as you might be, if you feel confused or, oh, I'm not sure if my idea is good, just don't look at the SparkNotes. Don't waste your time with that. Don't waste my time with that. Just come up with your own ideas, and I promise you, they will be good enough to use as a foundation for your writing, along with your sticky note annotations and the photographic proof of that you're going to put in that Google document. You're also going to create a thesis statement for Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. And I want to make sure that that thesis statement is in the appropriate style for the way that we write in AP Lit, which is pretty specific. And that is what this material is all about. So I made a little presentation for you all, and I will talk us through that. Here's an image of my face. That's me. Again, I'm Mrs. Casey. I'm so happy to meet you all, and in some cases, enjoy your presence in my classroom for an additional year. All right. So let's talk. We're going to be preparing this thesis specifically for a type of essay called literary analysis, or sometimes literary argument. It is a type of writing that we will be focusing hard on all during the first semester. So this material is not only useful for your summer assignment, but also for tons of things we're going to be doing down the line. So it's important that you invest in this and you pay attention, because the people who start this work mentally early are the people who are usually more successful in the course, because it takes a little bit of practice to get it down. The first attempt might not be very successful for you, but it's okay. It still counts toward that building of knowledge and that building of this style of writing. So my first recommendation is that you watch this little video by me. It's a collaboration that I did several years ago with TED Ed. They're the same people who make TED Talks, but it kind of gets you in the mood for like what you should be looking for as you're reading, knowing that you're going to have to write this essay down the line. Another tip I have for you is to think about what you want to focus on in the text. The book is too big to talk about every single thing that happens, so find something small, whether it is a pattern that you notice, a stylistic tendency of the writer, a particular character, a particular relationship, a particular aspect of the text. Something, you kind of want to narrow that focus down instead of just, the book itself, right? That's way too much to tackle. So think about an aspect of the book that you want to focus on. And then you're going to move into formulating this thesis where you're going to make a claim about what I call a thematic statement. So the thematic statement is a part of the overall thesis statement. And it kind of talks about what message is revealed by this focus element that you selected up here. So, in other words, the thematic statement is the why to the how of this. Okay. So, how do we do this? I recommend that you start with what I call a big idea, and then you move toward a full statement about that idea. Let's get into that a little more specifically. So, again, this thematic statement portion of the thesis is really your bread and butter. It ends up being the argument that you are making in your entire essay. It's what you claim the message of the author is, the crucial takeaway from the text. So, this is part of your thesis statement. Again, the why to the how. And most importantly, a lot of people struggle with this, even, pretty far into the semester. So please try to kind of grapple with this now. The thematic statement has to capture a universal statement about a big idea. Okay. So let's say that I'm using Frozen. Okay. Yeah, let it go. That Frozen. I'm using Frozen as my text, right? My universal statement has to be about a big idea. It can't just be about like Elsa overcomes her self doubt or something, right? Because that's specific to Elsa. It needs to go beyond her, something that we could apply to all humanity. So you think about what big ideas are present in the text. So when I say big idea, I'm talking about abstract social concepts, right? Something that is essential to the human experience that most people will encounter or at least think about over the course of their lives. So some examples here would be like war, parental love, identity, honor, betrayal, grief, power, desire, economics, religion, right? Those big things about what it is to be human and what contributes to the way that society is constructed. Okay, so as I say here, and I'll include a link to this presentation as well, so you have it for reference and you don't need to listen to me every time you look at it. But this next slide is really important. I really advise that you copy it down somewhere along with the color coding because, again, you're literally going to need this formula for the writing that we will be doing the whole first semester. We're going to return to this several times. It's not going to go away. So let's take a look. So this is what I call the formula for your literary argument thesis statement. This is not to say that this is the absolute only way you can do it, but I want you to start here because you can't really do variations on this theme until you learn the baseline, right? It's just like with a musical instrument, you can't really do improvisation until you really know your scales and you really know how musical keys work and things like that, right? So this is how it looks. You'll notice that I have different colors for the different elements, and those correspond from the formula to the example here. So the first part's super easy. Title and author, duh, right? Include that. And then you've got some kind of verb that helps you transition into that focus element. Remember, we talked about that smaller slice of the text that you want to talk about. Now, in my example, I used The Glass Menagerie, which is a dramatic work by Tennessee Williams. And in this play, there is a real sense of the characters being very fragile, either physically fragile, emotionally fragile. And then you can kind of infer from the title, The Glass Menagerie, one of the characters literally has this collection of glass animals, which are, of course, very breakable, right? And, very fragile themselves. So I decided to use that pattern that I saw, the pervading sense of fragility among the characters, as my focus element. Then you've got another verb, and then boom, you've got the thematic statement, ever important, right? So that statement about a big idea that you feel the author is making. And in this particular play, it's not a very happy play, sad to say. These characters, and this one main character in particular, feels very alone because of this struggle that she has with her mental illness that is downplayed and not really addressed by her family. So I used that message that I was kind of picking up on, thinking about like, well, why is there this idea of fragility everywhere? Well, it gets us to this eventual idea of how social isolation and mental illness can ultimately weaken identity. Now, you'll notice in that purple, the thematic statement, I didn't say how this character struggles, blah, 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 right? That would be too specific to her. In my thematic statement, it needs to be something that could apply to the whole world, to anybody. So I haven't used character names. I'm talking about ideas only, right? Which is kind of a tricky thing to do, but hopefully you can kind of see how that works. So the whole thing together sounds like this. In his drama The Glass Menagerie, Tennessee Williams uses a pervading sense of fragility among his characters to portray how social isolation and mental illness can weaken identity. Let's work with this a little bit further. I'm going to ask that you use one of my favorite early Pixar movies, Finding Nemo, as an example. I'm guessing that most of you have seen Finding Nemo at some point in your life, but if you need a refresher on that, there is a trailer that I've linked there. You could also just read the synopsis online to kind of get a sense of it. I wanted to go with a common text that was easy, that kind of everybody has in common. So we're going to use that. And I'd like to challenge you to try to make a thesis statement in this style. So, in the same style of the color coded formula that you copied down, try to make one for Finding Nemo and see how it goes. I'm not going to reveal the final slide. I'm just going to click past it very quickly because I want you to think about it on your own. But when you look at this on the slide for yourself, then compare it and see how you did. So we're just going to click right past that. So once you've done that, you are ready. You've got a little practice. You're ready to tackle your thesis for Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. Don't forget to share it with me on a Google Doc along with your annotation photos by the end of August. If you have trouble or you want some feedback or something beforehand, feel free to email me. That's not required, but I'm happy to help if you need it. I check my school email about once a week in the summer. So don't be alarmed if you don't hear back from me right away. I'm probably working on my garden or kayaking or something, but I will get back to you within the week, hopefully, or maybe a week and a half, depending on if I'm traveling or something like that. I don't think I will be this summer, but who knows? Who knows what's going to happen, right? Again, your thesis statement and annotations will be for a grade. They'll represent your first grade for the class. My expectation is that you are trying your best. Don't feel like it has to be anything super spectacular. This is just the beginning. So your honest best effort is all I ask for. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you in September.